Well, welcome back, everyone, to the LEC Head of Excel versus Fnatic. The audio mixer froze. Now, I know it's cold in Berlin, but that happens. And don't worry, it doesn't mean we're getting into picks and bans later.
I kind of liked lo-fi LEC.
Yeah, it was nice. Seeing them set up, a little lo-fi vibe. I'm fully relaxed going into this one. I fear that Fnatic and Excel are not going to be as relaxed. They have had a nightmare of a start to a season. I think we can put it bluntly like that. If you look at the expectations for both rosters, not saying they were expected to top the table from the get-go, but to me, have been caught lacking, both of them.
Yeah, 100%. I think like with the name power, the star power on these teams, you of course expect them to be doing better than 8-9th with 1-3 records, just barely above Astralis. Like, we're now at a point, right? Like, this is the halfway point today in the season, right? In terms of VO1s, where you have to turn it around because at the moment they are battling to make it out of 9-10.
At this point, they're going to be one setting up for that, like, not tiebreaker necessarily, but at least being the one that's going to go towards the 9th place here. And I think it's crazy to see that BDS and SK all the way up towards the 4th place, and it's Fnatic Excel down where they are.
Down where they are, indeed. We want to play a little draft game, or rather fix the draft game. We're going to start with Mad versus Excel yesterday and take a look at kind of what you liked out of the draft and how you think you could have fixed it and then maybe fix the game.
So what was really weird to me in yesterday's game...
this is Fnatic BDS.
This is Fnatic. I mean, we can...
How about you take it then?
there's a couple things we wanted to break down. Just kidding. We're back over to Excel. You're on.
Just trolled.
Hold it. All right, let's go. What was really curious to me in like yesterday's draft was not necessarily the first 3 picks, like they're pretty standard, and I kind of get it. But what was curious to me was when you got to the second ban phase and I started seeing top lane bans. Initially on red side, when I see this, I think that's because you're going to blind pick a top laner. You're just making sure his blind pick becomes easier to play due to the fact that, you know, you're banning away the champions. Then you can leave your mid lane counter pick open on 5. But that's not what happened. You banned the top laners, you banned Jax and Jace, which I thought was like, okay, they'll 4th pick Kassadin themselves. No, they 4th pick the Akali, and while it's still a fine matchup into the Azir once you get past level 6, he just never had any pressure. Then the counter pick came through with the Gwen into the Cassandra at that point, and it didn't work out. It wasn't a counter pick. It was just neutralized by the pick itself. And I think if you swap this around, if you started by taking the Cassandra 4 here instead, allowed Vetheo to know what he's picking into in the mid lane, I think he would be way more comfortable as well. I think we've already seen Odo on Cassandra. We know what he could do. And I think Vetheo might need this last counter pick as well from the way he's been playing so far, because he didn't look too comfortable on the Rift while he was refining the matchup, where he didn't necessarily pick into that specifically.
Yeah, and a big talking point too has just been like simplifying drafts, right? If you're a team that is struggling to get wins, and at the moment they are, I think it would be much simpler if you go the tank route. You're playing front-to-back team fights as opposed to, oh, you know, the cocktail draft. We've got Akali coming in here, Gwen trying to find a flank, Wukong trying to set up. Like, every champion on Excel kind of wants to play on their own. They're all sort of the superstar, whereas Mad Lions have like the perfect front to back, so easy to execute, and at the end of the day, it's just not a very easy game for Excel to win unless they're stomping through lane.
If you'd had to theorize, when I look at the members on the teams of both Fnatic and Excel, as you said already, very experienced players. In fact, some of the most experienced players we had. Is that maybe keeping them from saying, all right, we'll just keep it super simple and do that?
No, it's not. No? Because if anything, they should know that the first week of usually spring split, now winter split in LEC, you always go for late game scaling team fighting. It always works.
Counterpoint. Last year Vitality, they thought they could go for the, like, play whatever they wanted to. It never worked out for them. And I think it's a trend, like, when you're a new team coming together, just start building up foundation, and you do that with easy comps.
Maybe they'll prove us wrong and just do the same thing and win. Let's take a look at then Fnatic versus BDS and their draft yesterday. I remember last week, you know, when they got the win at the end of the week, it was a death ball comp. They had the Sivir. It really worked out. Did we have as much of that yesterday versus BDS? It's coming to
no. Honestly, I think that this draft showed some big holes in the Fnatic game plan and the prep overall. The first thing coming up, and Crowny talked about this, playing against the Ashe Ezreal, they were under no pressure in the bottom lane, and the fact is they had the option to take Ashe and Heimerdinger very early on in this draft. Heimer for Mad Lion, or for BDS rather, doesn't come in until 4th pick. So not only did they not pick it as the bot lane option, they also were not banning it in the second phase. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe Rekkles doesn't want to play the Ashe, is instead going for the Ezreal. And then also because they take the Cassante on 3, and then BDS have a Wukong, they're getting double banned in jungle, which makes you think, oh, we're going really far down the jungle pool. And with the early jungle bans of Sejuani and Maokai, it limits your options. But it shows us again, does Razork not want to play the Elise, or is he late to the trend here? Because 2 picks of Heimer and Elise not coming in for Fnatic are kind of stunning.
And I think Elise could have been great in a lane where you know it's going to be about the bot lane to kind of tip the scale in your favor. I think bot lane very much so right now with picks like Ashe that can stack up a sickle so fast because of the way that they trade. Heimerdinger as well with the turrets is alpha and mecca, because once again, you get your ward item before anyone else, you start getting that low econ going before anyone else, it's super easy to play. I also think that there's a misconception with the Ashe into Heimerdinger, because yes, it can be a counter pick, but it's so much about who gets on the first wave and who gets, like, if Heimer gets to set up turrets, really didn't matter if you picked Ashe, because you can't get into the bushes and get control of them. Yes, you can try and get them with your W in the beginning, but that's like a 10-11 second cooldown when you only have 1 point in it. So I also think in the beginning, like, when you come into it, you really need to know what kind of draft you're going for, and you know you need how to play it, not just in the late game, but like for the first wave that you're going into the bot lane.
We're getting into the draft now, which is awesome. In fact, we already have some of our bans.
All right, I mean, interesting to see that Excel are already taking the Ashe off the table, and Fnatic also fixing some problems of yesterday. Heimerdinger, of course, we just mentioned, fell all the way to the second phase, but they're going to remove that very quickly. And with a couple of support bans, this makes me think jungle is going to be left wide open, so Sejuani Maokai up for grabs.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And just a trend in general that's been with Fnatic so far is that I think they are the team that I've seen that bans the most bot laners in their first 3 rotations. They're really doing everything they can to set themselves up for success down with Rekkles and rhuckz, but it just doesn't always work out. Bless you. And I think it's going to be curious to see if they're still going to go down that trend, because I think you have a very valid point here in that you leave open a lot of the power picks that's already been there, and they are taking away the Maokai.
Yeah, as soon as Excel banned the Sejuani, you almost have to match with the Maokai here, of course, leaving things up like the Lucian Nami. And as far as Excel are concerned, I think it's a great idea to try and attack Fnatic through the bottom lane. You can maybe try to match tanks towards the top side of the map. Again, if we're trying to simplify draft, that's probably what Wunder and Odo end up going for, is some kind of Cassante blind.
Yeah, Dagda spoke about it in the draft earlier, but it's the fact that you can take away the Nami now, you can pair it with an Ezreal, you can pair it with other champions if that's what you're looking for as well. Looks like they're just going to be going for a standard rotational meta right now, which is that AD carry and jungle.
This is good though, getting their jungler early on. Again, I was not looking forward to seeing Razork get banned out in the second phase one more time. And with the 2 big junglers off the table, Wukong rise in priority, Vi as well, so it's not going to be an Elise option for Xerxe, but a Vi, one of those champions that can dive so far towards the enemy backline. This is, all of a sudden, I'm thinking maybe we need some more gap closing power out of both top lane and mid lane so that Xerxe is able to find fights in the mid game. Because if you're not aggressively ulting off of cooldown on the Vi, the pick just, I don't think shines quite as much as something like a Wukong can later in fights.
Wow, okay, I was really debating what they would come up on third. It pretty much had to be a support, or else I would trim out the support pool too much. I was thinking like maybe you wanted to go the Lulu route and just playing Enchanter and try and scale with an on-head Varus into the game. Looks like they want to go for the same kind of stylistic that we just saw G2 go for earlier, where it's you want to contest the early waves. And this brings a lot of pressure on the junglers as well already, because they need to be down there and influence it from the early game.
100%. And I also think Fnatic trying to build back some trust in this bot lane, put rhuckz on some kind of engaged support. Forget the enchanters, right? The unkillable World's Leona is back for them, and finding early all-ins, a lane that Razork can play around, is a great option.
Yeah, definitely. And I really like the fact that Fnatic this time around, they banned the Jax. Excel now in their second ban rotation, you know, we just criticized them for it earlier. They ban away the Cassandra here. They're not looking to play into it on 4 instead. Normally, you would see a Jace ban as well, maybe potentially from Fnatic, but they've actually been one of the few teams who's been playing this in the mid lane themselves, and that does leave open a flex if that's what they're looking for. And instead, they're going to continue to take away some of the weak siders for Odo instead here.
Yeah, I mean, happiness for Wunder here is potentially going back and playing a Gragas. I also think Azir is going to be really important in the second phase for either mid laner, especially Fnatic if you're trying to outrange the Lucian on the opposite side can give him some problems in the later team fights. With the Syndra getting banned away, I think that Azir does spring to mind. And the question is, do Fnatic decide to just blind pick top lane? I think they will, and then give Humanoid the counter pick, but they might think Azir is important enough.
There we go. Now, I definitely think it's fine. If they go Azir, you still have Azir in the back pocket that you can bring out, and then you just handshake the matchup and you go for that. Azir right now...
Victor, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You said Azir twice, so...
Sorry, yeah. Victor into Azir, of course.
Azir, yeah.
Handshake that matchup if that's what you're looking for instead. And I think mid lane priority will be super pivotal.
Sure.
Because mid lane priority is bot lane priority, and that allows you to come down with your mid laner and jungler to influence that. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of a Renekton into a Gnar. It is easier to play now when you can go for the Blade of the Rune King into Prowler's Claw, but traditionally speaking, it's a matchup that Gnar has been happy to play into.
I will say, though, as a Vi in the jungle, I'm very excited to see a Prowler's Claw Renekton in the top lane versus a Gnar. That's a lane I can play through super, super easily at really any point in the game. Similar story for mid lane. This is exactly what I wanted. Some mobile solo laners that give Vi more options to play around. Sylas also on the roams trying to fight in river alongside Xerxe's Vi is a great way, I think, to close out this second rotation for Excel. Now, it's not the easy front-to-back team fight scaling option for Excel. This is much more mid-game aggression, but it's a very cohesive draft.
Yeah, but I also think while there is early game in the fact that you have a Lucian Nami and Renekton into the now on the top side to play for, playing the Sylas into Kassadin doesn't leave much room open for the kill pressure to come through. This can be a very safe lane, especially if you go with TP as well. You can go on Seal Spellbook, on Humanoid if you want to have some kill pressure yourself, swap to that Ignite. And I actually think this is a very favorable Kassadin draft to come through. The only worry that there would be is the fact that if Kassadin gets pushed in, as he so often does, it allows Excel to play for some of these lanes that they want to get ahead in the early game. So for Fnatic, it's really crucial that nobody ints in the early game.
Yeah, I think for Fnatic, avoid inting, especially like Wunder has to be careful of some ganks around that Renekton on the top side, but also I do want to see Fnatic try to take control over bot lane early. Early levels are going to be a test. We'll see if rhuckz has downloaded the Mickey X strategy. If he was watching how Mickey X plays Nautilus on the Pro View, we'll see.
Absolutely. But overall, I feel like, by the way you've been talking about these two drafts, that you're definitely happy with the adaptations we saw from both sides and should give us, hopefully, a better matchup coming out of these two teams.
I think so much is riding, especially for Excel, on how active Xerxe can be playing around his lanes early on, especially the level like 6 to 11 window. He has to find value on the pick.
Yeah, outside of the tidal wave though, Excel's engage is very singular. That means like you're super good at finding one pick and just getting ahead, but it also means if you would fall behind, it's really difficult to come back.
Can be difficult. Let's see how it plays out. Excel versus Fnatic.
And welcome to Summoner's Rift as XL are taking on Fnatic. I'm Quickshot, joined by Dagda at the caster desk. And I want to build on something that I heard from the analyst desk. Fnatic don't int early, don't concede kills, and I think that's because when I look at the XL composition, it definitely feels to me like it comes online earlier, and I think it needs to find kills.
Yeah, and especially that's where my eyes are focused on Xerxe, right? I want to see this guy now be super proactive, because one of the big things that we've seen from Xerxe at the moment is that he hasn't actually been able to get involved in the lanes particularly much, and I think that's been a big failing when it comes towards XL. And when you're looking at Patrik and Targamas on a Lucian Nami, when you're looking at Odo on this Renekton, both these side lanes can be hit hard and they can be hit early, and that's exactly what I want to see Xerxe go for.
Of course, if XL aren't able to do that, when you do think of some of the scaling options here on the side of Fnatic, very scary. I think a lot of pressure on Vetheo as well. When we look at the initiation tools for XL, very single target focus primarily with the Renekton and the Vi. Yes, obviously that tidal wave can help, but I think there's a lot of options that you can hijack away. Chain of Corruption, the Cyclone, the Gnar. So Vetheo, if he's able to get rolling with this Sylas, can also have a significant impact in those objective fights.
You'll also notice that every ult you named was elsewhere. But it's against the Kassadin. This is the big problem for Kassadin, for Sylas against Kassadin, is that you don't really get to play into the Kassadin particularly well. Like, the Rift Walk isn't great if you steal the ult. It's very easy for the Kassadin to stay at range and just try to farm it up because it's another melee champion. So the big one that I want to see from Vetheo is, okay, you should get push. Let's work with Xerxe. Let's move towards those sides, create numbers advantages, and start to snowball this game for Excel.
Well, can he do it? Just currently pushing that wave in. We saw in the bottom lane, Rekkles and rhuckz trying to land that Q from Nautilus, didn't connect. What do you make of this Varus-Nautilus combination? It feels to me like it's a little bit of like anti-synergy in some ways. Nautilus really wants to kind of fight and go in. That's a little bit more traditionally clear the waves, keep people at arm's length.
Yeah, it is a little bit strange to me because a lot of the times you'd see at the moment like Varus with the Karma where you get a ton of push, or even with an Ashe, right? Even back in the day when we used to see more of the on-hit, it was like, we're going to go with a Tam Kench, keep the Varus safe. Varus isn't someone that can really go toe-to-toe in the early stages with Patrik and Targamas, especially as level 3 is about to be hit. So this feels more to me like Fnatic are kind of giving up on trying to find innate synergies between the champions and more looking for, hey, let's get comfort for rhuckz. Rhuckz traditionally has been a big Leona Nautilus player. We'll have to see now if you can bring that into pressure on this bot side.
I mean, when I take a look at rhuckz's all-time games played, Nautilus is his 5th or 6th most, 22 games. Significant win ratio. Right now, he's being pushed back all the way to the tower, as is Humanoid and Wunder. If you look at the minimap, all 3 lanes for Excel pushing very aggressively, and this will allow Xerxe some backup if his lanes move first. Stepping into the jungle here will spot out Razork on his blue buff, but literally it's a high and a buy, places the ward and gets out.
Yeah, but this is again Xerxe trying to see if he can spot out where Razork is. If he can take this bottom scuttle, Razork might try and steal it, but I think the big one here is trying to keep Xerxe on this bottom side. You can see his Krugs are up and the wave is bouncing out on bot side if they want to try and make something happen, but it looks like at the moment he's happy to just kind of handshake and reset.
I really want to see Excel make use of these pushing waves as Patrik gets caught out by rhuckz, ignited as well, starts to step back, gets the heal out of Rekkles. No summoner spells used from Excel's bottom lane. But the reason that I talk about that is we've seen Razork and Fnatic be bullied and punished a little bit as they lose control of their jungle, as Razork gets invaded on. With these waves in favor of Excel, there's some pressure on Xerxe to make a move, and right now he's coming in here behind Rekkles and rhuckz.
Yeah, wants to try and go for the dive here. Look at the video as well. He's actually just TP'd back into mid, could try and make his way down, but wave is about to crash.
It's not a huge wave, and Rekkles will be the target. Flash forward, taken down. First blood secured by Targamas. Teleport being channeled as well. Humanoid level 5 will jump forward onto Xerxe. Fnatic get themselves one back, and it lands with Kassadin.
And that was actually a big turnaround play from Fnatic. Humanoid hadn't backed first in mid. Vetheo just TP'd in towards the mid lane, so couldn't match the play. Humanoid now picks up a kill, and it's a good answer for the early aggression Xerxe was attempting to put down into this bot lane.
And of course, with Targamas picking that up in that bottom lane, not the most advantageous. Odo being bullied by many Gnar, flashes forward with that Q. Here comes Vetheo. He could teleport to that middle lane, knowing that Humanoid wasn't there. Unfortunately for him, the wave was not in a position where Wunder could be punished. So flash for flash in that top lane. And looking at the mid now, there's a number of wards placed just behind the Fnatic jungle. So Xerxe, as well as the rest of the squad, taking advantage of these pushing lanes. But we do need to see Xerxe finding those opportunities, but ultimately not conceding those deaths.
But I think the good news here for like Rekkles and rhuckz is that they were actually winning out on that lane pretty substantially, right? Because when we look across at Patrik and Targamas, they haven't exactly been the most dominant bot lanes thus far in the LEC. And already you could see rhuckz finding those hooks, trying to make sure that he can make Patrik and Targamas uncomfortable on what should be an aggressive lane for Excel.
I mean, you see both of the stats for Patrik and Targamas ranking 8th and 9th respectively for their role. Obviously the team sitting at 1 and 3 makes that a little bit more difficult, and they will be the target of another gank. Razork and Humanoid here as well. Xerxe only level 4, but the minion wave is slowly being cleared out. Patrik's going to use that relentless pursuit backwards. The tower is targeting, and rhuckz will go down. Targamas gets his second kill of the game, and all of a sudden it's Excel with the numbers advantage. Targamas escapes, and Vetheo arrives to join. Humanoid will get taken down. It's another for Excel's Fnatic. You've got one back. The fish is down. Fnatic get punished for the dive.
You had one job, Fnatic! It was to not int! You didn't have to win, you just had to not int, and they immediately try and go for this play in the bot side, and it's turned around by Excel. Suddenly that's 4 kills to Excel now, they're getting the gold onto some of these carries that they needed to. Now, Targamas does pick up 2 of the kills in the grand scheme of things, which isn't great, but there was no need to try and go for this play. They see that Vetheo's picking up the wave in mid, but I mean, Kassadin has no damage at the moment. Razork's still level 5. And even Rekkles here, he's pushed out. And there's the TP coming from top to make it all even as well. This was messy play from Fnatic.
I really like seeing Vetheo obviously responding. He tried to push top lane, didn't find any opportunities, is responding in time with Humanoid's teleport to at least get himself on the board with that assist. And as we jump back into the game, it is now rhuckz and Rekkles continuing to push forward. They've got a small CS advantage, but they're playing into the 1-1-3 for Patrik's Lucian. He still has that flash available. And with all of the shenanigans on the Rift, Excel were the ones that were able to read that and respond to it. And that's great for them, but it is still only a 500 gold lead into a team composition that they want to generate more control and a larger advantage.
And I think we'll end up seeing Excel try to play a little bit more heavily around mid to unlock Vetheo now to get that play rolling, right? Help Xerxe, help Vetheo to move down bot, look for things like Dragon, try and snowball this game before Fnatic really get their footing underneath them. But I like what rhuckz is doing here, just mirroring mid lane, making sure that there's no way Humanoid actually gets caught out by Xerxe with that ultimate now available just as he goes to push in the wave.
Yeah, Razork and Xerxe both hit 6 at the same time. In the mid lane right now, Razork's going to at least sneak through, but Patrik and Targamas have roamed their way up. Rekkles is catching that wave down bottom. Patrik uses that E to escape and waiting for Xerxe to join. Another rift walk forward, chunks out some damage. But there's no further engage. Some poke goes out, and Fnatic get the trade for now.
Yeah, Xerxe still on the Rift Herald, though.
Oh, the re-engage, the bubble, throws up rhuckz, and the culling takes him down. That's Patrik with his second, just catching Fnatic unawares.
And I'm really surprised that we're seeing Fnatic go for these aggressive plays, because Fnatic have actually been really good in their early game. It hasn't been that much of an issue for them, where traditionally, you know, in the first few minutes it's going wet, or going, sorry, it is going poorly in the first few minutes, but as the game goes on, it starts to get a lot better. So we're still seeing that trend from Fnatic, where their early game hasn't been as strong as it used to be.
No, it hasn't. Take a look at the numbers there, Dagda. This is exactly what you're talking about. At 14 minutes across Fnatic's games, excluding the G2 one. I wanted to have a little bit more of the competitive ones. Down on average, 1.7k at 14 and 20 minutes, but they have been able to bounce back throughout some of their games. Right now, though, they're going to continue to lose, as Wunder will be the target, as Odo picks up a kill in the top lane with Xerxe and Vetheo helping out. 1,500 gold lead. They got themselves the Rift Herald, they got themselves the kill top lane, and Fnatic replied with the Dragon.
And this is what I wanted to see from Excel, getting Xerxe involved in kills, getting Vetheo out on the map. I think this is what a lot of people were expecting to see from this squad coming into the split. It's just sad that it's taking, you know, a week and a half for them to finally get to this stage. Now, though, against Fnatic, they're showing up, they've got that lead, they just need to continue stepping forward and getting more of this gold onto the cards.
Yeah, I think for Excel, this is one of the strongest early game, strongest showings we've seen from them.
By far, yeah.
Especially because of how much movement there has been. We're 10 minutes in, and we've had pretty much everybody traveling around the Rift thus far. Fnatic, on the other hand, continuing to struggle. That Varus, as well as Nautilus, had a small advantage in the bottom lane, but they whiffed it on those dives. And now they're in a position where they need to, once again, regain control. They've got at least one of those dragons under their belt. But I think for Fnatic, how do you see them now coming back into this game? Razork will have his flash and his ultimate available and is starting to clear out his jungle.
I mean, the big thing for them is just slow down the pace, right? We've got this poke Varus coming in the bot side, can wave clear all day long. You stick Humanoid in the side lane, he's just going to farm up, and you just want to get those Rod of Ages stacks come in and let that be your late game win condition. The problem is that Fnatic will be trying to, you know, jump the gun, try and be the ones that are more proactive, but that's not what this composition is designed to do. So as long as they can kind of set themselves up with both side lanes there, and you've also got Rekkles in mid just wave clearing, you've already got one dragon there, there's no need for you to try and over-force plays again.
Right, so then we might be settling into a slightly slower passage of play, unless Xerxe and Excel can create opportunities. A number of wards in that bottom lane. Xerxe setting up a lane gank, potentially. Could also look to go into the jungle as this wave is cleared out by Rekkles. He's got himself that Yomu's Ghostblade, and instead just going to drop the Herald and step away. You do have to keep a close eye on where Xerxe decides to play, because with that cease and desist, there's the ability to instantly blow someone up. In response, Humanoid and Razork making their way down to this bottom lane.
Yeah, I mean, I think Excel are just going to back away, though. You're not really going to be able to force much more. Xerxe now has the bot lane, though, moving with them, so maybe they're thinking of something, but I mean, Razork is here. Razork has read this really well.
Well, that's a flash forward. The dredge line will be dashed away from. Tidal wave not going to connect, but the chain of corruption does. And all of a sudden, Xerxe is the target taken out by Rekkles. Fnatic get their 4th kill of the game. Humanoid is making his way through the jungle. Do they fancy another dive?
I don't know if you want to go for a dive. Patrik and Targamas, well, should back away. Should is a good word, though. As maybe they do just stick around here.
Sticking onto it for now. Razork takes a couple of shots from the tower and the minion wave was cleared. He escapes with his life. Dredge line used by rhuckz. Rekkles, no mana, flash and heal. Gonna need both of those in just a moment. Patrik gets caught up by the dredge line. The warp, the whack, and the damage from Razork is too much. Targamas trying to go some portal combat. He's got himself one, but he can't get more. Ends up being a 1-for-1 in the second fight.
Nami's the most fit person on Excel right now. 3 kills over to Targamas off this, and it was a little bit messy, but I think the fact that you don't get those kills onto Patrik is pretty huge for Fnatic. They still get that kill as well, so I mean, this has just been a bit of a, slobber knocker, to be honest.
Can you explain what slobber knocker is?
Yeah, you both just basically throw haymakers back and forth over and over again until one of you falls over. But I'm really not sure who's winning right now.
Well, right now, small advantage to Excel, at least as far as the gold is concerned. But this is now the back half of the fight where Razork just takes so much damage from that fed Nami.
And I think this is a bit of miscommunication from Fnatic. Humanoid had moved back in towards the mid lane, so Fnatic thought they had numbers advantage to go for this dive, but I mean, Rekkles, you're on hit Varus, have no mana, and I mean, it is a really good turnaround there on towards Patrik, but Targamas just able to finish off Rekkles at the back of that.
Managing to at least get that 1 kill back. And I think once we get back on the Rift, I want to take a look at the standings because these two teams are in a position that not many people anticipated. Both at 1 and 3 in that dangerous zone where they might not advance to the group stage. If I can get the standings on screen now, production, that would be great. Because I think at this stage, we're halfway through the regular season and preseason expectations now have to be recalibrated, have to be reassessed. And even when you look at the decision-making within the course of this game for now, there are still some question marks to be made, especially when you're seeing how the likes of BDS and SK are developing over the last couple of games. So there's a lot of pressure on these teams to avoid that 9th, 10th, meaning they don't advance to group stage, and more importantly, actually live up to the expectations that many had preseason.
Yeah, I mean, both these teams were kind of ranked in that A tier for a lot of people, myself included. And I think when we looked at this squad, from Fnatic's side, it was like, okay, you're bringing in Rekkles and rhuckz, you're not changing your top half of the map. You still should see that decent amount of coordination, but that really has been lacking. And when you look across at Excel, I mean, we're just not seeing the team gel well at all. It feels like a lot of people are on different pages, the communication isn't there. This is the first time we've actually seen a bit more of a proactive early game coming out from Xerxe.
And it has worked. Managed to at least generate a minor gold lead, a kill advantage. This will be the first dragon for Excel. And it was not contested by Fnatic.
But this is one of the problems with Fnatic, right? Because when you look at what they should be doing right now, yes, you don't fight for the dragon, but they're all just kind of standing there watching. What they really needed was Razork to start moving up towards top side, use the fact that Wunder had that push in mid, and take away the Rift Herald, like constantly cross-map. And this is where I think a lot of teams are falling down when it comes to taking picks like the Kassadin. There's like, you know, falling behind and then hoping Kassadin comes on, but there's also a case of losing gracefully.
Yeah, right now, Fnatic are trying to stem the bleeding. Wunder's been jumped on by Odoamne. Flash for flash traded once again. There is a little bit of potential support. Xerxe making his way up. As you mentioned, that Rift Herald is available. And of course, Patrik has been reassigned. He's now covering the mid lane while Vetheo, with that teleport, is down in the bottom lane. This team's splitting focus on opposite ends.
Again, though, you're kind of seeing Fnatic or Excel going, okay, well, we're going to go for the Rift Herald. We're going to make sure that we're keeping the pace of this game rolling. But Fnatic, they try to go for this bot lane. Vetheo is already reset, so he's not available for them to try and dive. Now, they should be able to get a turret in response, but I wouldn't be surprised if Excel, you can see Xerxe is on the same boat, immediately move mid, throw down the Rift Herald. They know that there's no one in this mid lane right now, and that's going to be 2 outer turrets now going in favor of Excel.
That is going to be crucial if Excel can push into the jungle of Fnatic. As long as that Kassadin had that sort of base of operations and safety zone, can continue to scale up. But I think at 16 minutes, we've now seen a number of towers falling. The advantage doesn't feel significant enough in my eyes for maybe what Excel could have done. But as we now move into this mid-game phase and the teams start moving around, How do you fancy the 1-item, 2-item power spikes, and which composition is going to perform better?
It's definitely still Excel in Excel's hands, right? Because the fact that you have this control over the jungle of Excel is going, or sorry, Fnatic is going to make it very easy to look for things like the next dragon that's coming up to try and put more pressure down. What I'd really love to see them do is to like push in mid wave and immediately start to group on towards this top side so you can threaten that tier 2 and top, and then you can just kind of drift back and forth between mid and top. You've also got this bot tower as well that is very vulnerable. If anyone on Fnatic tries to save it, immediately just go and dive there. So you have a lot of options here for Excel, and this is where it does get very difficult as Fnatic because you end up giving over that second Rift Herald. Now you have that turret gone in mid, and it's very difficult to hold on to your base.
The observer's just highlighting the vision differences there. The wards from Excel in this northern quadrant, giving them the information to play with. And of course, in terms of that top lane, I think crucial to call out that Odoamne is currently up 1,200 gold. And it's matched by Humanoid in that mid lane, up 1,300 as Humanoid jumps onto Vetheo. Small trades, but a number of champions inside the jungle, setting up. There goes the cease and desist. rhuckz is caught, thrown into the air by the tidal wave. He's forced to flash over the wall to dodge the aqua prison. Throws out the ulti onto Patrik, who's culling. Is body blocked by Razork. Continues to tank it up, and the flash forward from Patrik secures the kill. Now Razork will be the next target. Humanoid Rift walks forward, may need to force the flash and does so. Excel continue the chase, continue the pressure, and they catch Fnatic in their own jungle.
I mean, Odoamne just moved across from top side as well. He's pushed in mid, threatened that mid turret, so really nice job from Excel to spot out what Fnatic were doing. Trying to make a pick onto bot side, and Excel end up coming out on top.
I mean, it's felt like almost every proactive play from Fnatic this game has been punished in some ways. The tower dives have been answered, the invade was answered, and take a look at this. Razork and rhuckz may have been setting up some sort of play with Humanoid, but just get caught out.
Yeah, they basically thought that you're going to see Excel go for what we were talking about. Push in mid, go for a play on top side. They expect to see Odo on that top wave, so they're like, okay, let's try and trade for a tier 2 of our own, but they weren't expecting Excel to actually be playing a little bit further back and moving in, and now Humanoid is in a lot of trouble.
Oh, he's stunned in place. Teleport coming down from Wunder. Humanoid continues to get burnt down and chunked out. It's going to be secured by Odo, but now multiple members of Fnatic could have looked for a re-engage. Instead, 1-for-1 trade. And we need to keep an eye on where is the rest of the members. Rekkles making his way from that mid lane. But another opportunity where Excel managed to find the kill. They've got that vision in the jungle to fall down into safety, and they just push the wave. Fnatic are on their back foot constantly.
And this is the problem for Fnatic, right? We kind of talked about losing gracefully. They've tried to keep making proactive plays when they're not a composition that should be going for that. This is where you play reactive, you look for cross map, you don't try and force anything against Excel, but the early play is not going their direction. Now you've got Excel hitting their stride, making sure they're keeping pressure on the map, and Humanoid just massively overextending the top side there. There is no safe spot for you if you're that far up the lane.
Not at all. And of course, Patrik, despite not securing those kills early on, has got the highest damage dealt to champions in this game. 3, 2, and 4. 2 items completed. Rekkles, similar. Gold is pretty even, and it looks like for this dragon, Excel already in position. They're starting to push those wards forward, and Fnatic nowhere to be seen. Instead, they're going to try to commit to that top tower.
Yeah, but you can immediately see that Odoamne backs away. So again, this is the cross maps that they should have been doing a little bit earlier. Now, I still like that they're trying to go for it. It will give them a tower. They should be able to answer for bot. And as long as you're trading tit for tat, you're okay. But the problem now is you have no outer turrets remaining. So it becomes very difficult now for Fnatic to try and push past the safety of their tier 2s, to threaten things like Baron, to keep control over these next dragons that are coming up. So, I mean, the window of opportunity for Fnatic is very quickly closing, and Humanoid is still level 14, a long way away from being that big menace.
Okay, but that implies that Excel are taking advantage of the fact those outer towers are down. They have done a very good job throughout the course of this game pushing vision into Fnatic's jungle. They've moved responsibly, and we've got another siege being set up, another engage. Razork and Humanoid jump onto Xerxe, instantly traded back on by multiple members of Excel. The tidal wave will split up Fnatic's members. Another kill goes over to Excel.
And this is the thing Excel are able to do, as you said, like move into the jungle, find these picks, make it uncomfortable for Fnatic. And the big problem that you're seeing is that these point-and-click CCs are just devastating for Rekkles, for Humanoid as well. Even the fact that Vetheo consistently has been stealing away this depth charge from rhuckz has made it terribly hard for anyone here on Fnatic to really push forward.
And as soon as they lose one of those members, the swarm of Excel just push the advantage further. That's the 4th tower secured. 3,000 gold lead. And it doesn't feel like Fnatic have been able to create an opportunity that goes unanswered. Almost every single engage or fight, there's a reply back from Excel, and it also leads to like a tower or an objective, and that's why they're in control right now.
And they're going to be able to keep this up, right? You've seen Odoamne hasn't really been a force in these fights for a little bit because he's just been constantly keeping these waves and checks in side lanes, making sure that Excel are like, okay, now we can start to creep that vision forward. Now, Fnatic have cleared out all that vision off that last push, but this is where you're going to see Excel grouping up once more, pushing sideways out to try and get control once more, or even pick off Wunder here.
There's that hijacked ultimate. Vetheo holds on to it. I was holding my breath in case they decided to engage. Humanoid's got his teleport available, taking a look. Both are up for Excel. And they're starting to, again, take advantage of the fact those towers are down. Just gives them that freedom to move between the lanes. For Excel, now starting to turn their attention. They've got 2 dragons under their belt, 22 minutes into the game. The next one's up in 3 minutes' time. So what objective do they want to prioritize?
I mean, for Excel, you're definitely looking at dragons. I really like dragon kind of being as a way to force fights against teams that don't really want to. Because when you get to 3rd dragon, when you get to 4th dragon, it becomes very, very difficult then for Fnatic to really be in a position to contest if they're already behind. But Excel, moving up towards this top side, they want to pick Vetheo. Fnatic are reading this.
Excel once again, a little bit of a numbers advantage. They're already jumped onto Razork. He's dropped for now. That Cyclone does very little to slow them down, and it is just another opportunity, another example of Excel getting the better of Fnatic. The single target CC, the damage follow-up, and once again, now they are in the driver's seat. They've started off the Baron. There's a little bit of support here from Wunder and rhuckz. Wunder's going to go Mega Gnar in just a moment. Needs to be huge, but look at that damage! With the Nami empowered double shots on Lucian, Wunder gets chunked out. He's about to Gnar out. As Vetheo has stolen the ultimate away. They've at least stopped the Baron, but it's starting to look more and more dire for Fnatic.
There's a lot of poke on Fnatic between Wunder and Rekkles, so Excel kind of feeding the brunt of that. They will back away, but nice pick again. You've got wave push on bot side, so Fnatic are still losing out while they try and go for these plays as well. And this is just a great call from Xerxe, right? Immediately turns back, ends up connecting on Razork. The kill goes over, and Fnatic have got to run for the hills, but this is the problem that you're seeing with the Fnatic comp. It's very difficult to try and run into the Nami, the Renekton, the Vi as well. And a lot of these mobile carries like the Kassadin that they're trying to rely on can be quickly focused down when you've got this point-and-click CC.
And more importantly, just the communication and the target selection, as you mentioned, everybody's on the same page from Excel. So they're starting to push further and further into Fnatic's territory, setting up for the bottom inner turret. Vetheo's hijacked away that Mega Gnar, has the ability to engage with it. Fancies the shot, manages to double stun. Wunder's gonna Gnar out himself. Vetheo goes golden under the tower. The rest of Excel start to back away. This time round, Excel bite off more than they can shoot. Humanoid is teleported in. Can flank and jump around the 4 remaining members of Excel. Got to be very careful though, because that single target damage and CC will be a lot. Humanoid's able to escape for now. Rift walks and flashes to safety. Unfortunately, they only get that 1 kill. They do defend the tower. And with 35 seconds to Dragon, Fnatic may fancy a shot.
Great flash punch from Xerxe to actually get onto Humanoid there. Now Humanoid has to back away. Excel trying to hold on. They will have that TP, as you pointed out. Humanoid!
Look at the movement speed and the combination with Nami. Patrik gets his 5th kill of the game, takes down Humanoid, and now Excel will have a numbers advantage for about 40 seconds. TP was used in that previous fight, so they're going to start off Baron. Razork is making his way. He's just crossing the mid lane right now.
Vetheo TP's in towards mid lane. I think you're just going to see Fnatic trade this. They're just going to go straight for the Dragon instead of actually trying to contest for this, but Vetheo and Odoamne are still there. They still could try and just put some pressure down, but it looks like it's just going to be a trade of objectives at the moment.
Bigger advantage, obviously, to Excel, who have been able to control the waves and been able to push Fnatic backwards. Dragon will get secured. 3 members of Excel stepping forward. rhuckz is going to use that dredge line to some form of safety and will continue to get bullied and beaten down. Odo gets his 3rd kill of the game. Dragon was secured by Fnatic, but now Baron empowered minions can allow Excel to push this even further. I mean, it's just, we looked at the standings a minute or 2 ago. Both of these teams at 1 and 3. Both of these teams realistically could not advance to the group stage. Right now, Fnatic on the verge of getting taken out by Excel. And as soon as the Red Bull Baron power play disappears, I want to take a look at some of the next games because Fnatic are starting to run out of time.
I mean, especially when, as you say, potentially looking down the barrel of 1 and 4, they still have Heretics, Mad Lions is going to be a big contest for them, and then Astralis SK. So at least they still have some of the teams that are in that bottom of the table with them to try and push themselves up into that 8th place. But I mean, this hasn't been a strong performance for them at all.
No, what if Fnatic are one of the teams that don't advance? We'll find out next week. So obviously we've still got more games to play, and technically Fnatic can still find a way back in. It hasn't felt like they've had the opportunities because I think XL have been responding very well. I think XL are using their engage tools effectively, and now with the Baron Siege, going to take down their 5th tower of the game.
Humanoid has level 16 and now has his Zhonya's completed though. This is where he can play very aggressive, as you can see, pushing forward onto Vetheo, knowing that he has that safety in his back pocket. But XL, they just want to play this slow, use that Baron, make sure that they're keeping Rekkles as the sole person that can really clear these waves, pushed underneath his own tower.
There's a hijack Chain of Corruption available to Vetheo, throws it out, starts to lock down members of Fnatic. Cease and desist goes out, and rhuckz flashes forward, throws down the ultimate. They've got Patrik! They've got Patrik! Fnatic need to find more though, as Odo is running amok, and he takes out Razork. All of a sudden, 4 members of Fnatic start to back away. It's a 1-for-1 trade. They stop the bleeding.
And crucially, they get the AD carry there, so kind of takes the wind out of the sails here for XL on this push. So instead, they're just going to be able to back away. I mean, nice job from Fnatic to get onto the backline. Razork getting in over the wall, catching out Patrik was crucial to Fnatic's success there.
Now let's talk a little bit about comeback potential here, because as we get onto the steps of the inhibitor turrets, Lucian's the only real tower threat in terms of those straight up attack defense moments. If XL can play the side lanes, obviously, that's one of the ways. But with that limited number of champions to hit the tower, short range, Fnatic do have opportunities to engage like we just saw.
I think the big win here for Fnatic as well is that, okay, they can basically give up next dragon. That's 2 minutes 30, right? Then you add another 5 minutes until that dragon spawns, but now we're looking at 7 minutes, and then they can try and contest, right? And I think at that stage, I mean, Humanoid should be well underway towards being a much bigger threat when it comes towards his items. You're gonna have a ton of poke that's coming out from Rekkles. Wunder and Razork should be in better shape as well, where they can actually start to get towards these later levels. So there is an opportunity for Fnatic definitely to try and come back, but I think they have to be more careful in how they approach this, because Humanoid, we saw him go in very aggressive, get turned on. If that ends up happening again, this opens up XL to try and win these fights.
And so have to execute it well. Right now, XL have pushed that top wave. It was caught and answered by Fnatic, who have a small numbers advantage for the moment. Vetheo's teleport is available. He was pushing that bottom wave. We're 1.5 minutes to Dragon, 2.5 to Baron. And as we mentioned, both of these teams haven't been able to take absolute control of these fights. It's been very scrappy. Almost every single engage has, had multiple casualties on both sides, as Humanoid will be forced to use that Rift Walk to safety.
I mean, if I'm Fnatic here, I just go, right, look, Dragon up in a minute. I'm going to send Wunder or Humanoid up towards this top side. At this stage, Wunder beats Odo, Humanoid beats Vetheo in side lanes. So just try and play a 1-3-1, give up the Dragon so you can buy that tempo through those lanes, and then try and play through that stall, because I feel like if you just straight up try and fight XL right now, you're going to end up in a bad space. But if you can actually start to threaten these inner turrets, I mean, eventually get this mid lane turret down as well, maybe then you can actually start using the fact that Wunder and Humanoid should be beating out their counterparts.
And again, just one of these expectation readjustments when we've seen the teams that have been able to generate advantages and how quickly they can run away with the game. Neither XL nor Fnatic have really shown us what their true potential is this winter. We're continuing to set up this mid lane pressure. Tower still standing for XL. Fnatic are going to try shove this wave forward, but it has been answered. And we're just going full ARAM. Razork can flank, ultimates up, and no flash available.
And if you can try and get on towards Patrik, that's going to be the key carry here. Vetheo almost has his Rabadon's completed, but Patrik!
Chain of Corruption doesn't end, and Tidal Wave splits up Fnatic. Vetheo's got flash, as well as that hijacked Gnar ultimate. Fnatic stepping forward, Wunder about to Gnar out himself, and Razork gets the knock-up onto Patrik. He immediately flashes away, starts to channel the culling, finds the kill onto Razork. Humanoid will at least get one back. That's Patrik down, but what can Odo and Vetheo do? They're trying to chase down Wunder on the back end as Humanoid is the target of Xerxe. Rift walks away to safety. 3 members of Fnatic stepping back, allowing Rekkles the time. He takes down Vetheo. Berlin is behind Fnatic, but Targamas and Odo continue to be a threat. That is is a gigantic burst of damage. And Rekkles is channeling, charging, will not land the next shot. Fnatic can turn for that dragon.
I mean, you got TP on Humanoid, he can come in immediately. That was the fight that Fnatic needed. Patrik playing too far forward and thought his team would be able to save him, but there's so many dive opportunities for Fnatic, and there just wasn't enough in the tank.
Oh, teleports now coming in here. Odoamne will try to thwart Fnatic's third dragon. Potentially have another fight on our hands. Wunder does have TP available as well. He's stepping forward. And again, one of these initiations where this time round, Patrik goes down, Fnatic are able to split up Excel and crucially survive that single target damage.
And the big thing for Excel is like their composition works as like a combo, right? If Humanoid goes in, cool, Targamas get the wave out, Xerxe goes on towards the Kassadin. You burst down the Kassadin, you've even got Odo there for the CC, and the wave prevents the rest of Fnatic from following up onto the Kassadin. But that was not what we saw. Patrik takes one step too far, then a second one, and he gets bullied. Now though Excel on towards the Baron, Fnatic are collapsing.
I've got that tingly feeling in my tummy. Fnatic trying to stop this Baron. Wunder and Razork, it's stolen! It's stolen! Fnatic managed to steal the Baron! It is at the cost of Razork's life, but that is huge at buying time, stalling out, closing this gold gap. And Fnatic are finding some momentum here, Dagda.
I mean, the fact they even got the last dragon as well means that now they're the ones that can actually try and contest for this. So Ocean Soul, in this scenario, probably not going to be massive for Fnatic. It's very much kind of a burst-orientated squad here in Excel. But still, the fact that they're getting these objectives, stalling out the game, slowing it down, is crucial for them.
Man, it really feels like the Berlin crowd is sitting on Fnatic's shoulders. They've been able to find some fights in the last few minutes that have gone their way, but now they still need to find a way to become proactive. They've only got 2 towers secured. There's standing gold on the map available to them. That mid turret is still up, so that must be a focus for them.
Yeah, I was worried when I saw the Wunder had gone into mini form here. I was like, how do Fnatic try and get this? But Razork sets up with the smite, Wunder over the wall with the boomerang. And the fact that they managed to steal that away is huge. You can see there, they know how big that one was.
Is it enough to close back now? That gold gap is shrinking, and they are starting to push out these waves. Take a look at the bottom lane. Odo shoving out bottom, while Wunder with teleport is in the top.
And the way Fnatic got their win over Koi was trying to play it through these sides, trying to play the map, trying to make sure that they could find these moments to fight back against Koi. Now they got to do it again against Excel.
That's a lot of damage onto Targamas. Humanoid gets chunked as now Targamas steps backwards. Level 18 on that Kassadin. Wunder continues to push the top lane. Engage onto rhuckz. He isn't going to flash over the wall. Chain of Corruption lands and starts to spread. rhuckz stays alive for now. Vetheo's incredibly low. He's about to be taken out. It is! It's Humanoid that finds another kill. All of a sudden, Patrik, Odo, and Targamas need to step back. A double for Humanoid. Wunder is in the fight after the teleport, and there's going to gnaw back Odo. The GA is now propped, and all of a sudden, Patrik is a target. Humanoid gets some damage out with the help of that tower, and Razork finishes it off. 3 kills to Fnatic. 4. They're looking for the ace, Dagda. This is the lead that Fnatic wanted.
Screw the ace, they're looking for the end. Look at mid lane, they're just barreling down. They know that they can do it. Late game Kassadin comes online and Fnatic come on with them.
What was this game? Fnatic could not find a play that worked for 30 minutes. And in the blink of an eye, they take down Excel with 4 members dead, turn their attention to the turrets. There's no one alive to defend. Fnatic will come from behind to take down Excel.
It is becoming the story of Fnatic. Losing the early stages and then somehow trying to bring it back against Koi. Now again here, they're able to bring this game back, but that was a hard-fought victory for the Fnatic squad.
I think you have to be honest and acknowledge that the way this game played out is an indication of why these teams are at 1-3, now 1-4, 2-3.
Yeah, I mean, it's Fnatic definitely being able to kind of stall out the game, get some of these key objectives so they can go towards the late game helped out massively. But I think as well, just being able to exploit these little mistakes coming through, you know, overextension in the bot lane, Razork coming in over the wall with Humanoid to get the kill onto Patrik. We see the same happening in the mid lane. It was just finding these quick windows where they could just slow that momentum that Excel had built up.
I think Excel's early game is the best that we've seen this winter. The transition to mid game started off relatively well, especially their responses to what Fnatic was throwing at them. but it stalled out once we got to those inner turrets. They weren't able to push lanes effectively enough, make use of that Baron in a way that allowed them to break into the base.
And I think this was actually something that we saw from Fnatic as well against Koi, right? Is that they are actually quite good at setting up their waves, so then even if they end up losing a fight, but the push is already set up there, where now you've got to go right the way back to the start and slowly build up these waves to try and make these plays happen, to try and get on towards these turrets. But because of that, Excel couldn't use the fact that they got that initial Baron buff. They couldn't use the fact that they had control over side lanes. And Fnatic then slowly but surely stall out and get to that late point where they needed to.
Now, Humanoid taking over once he hit level 18 is one of the nominees for your player of the game at LEC on Twitter, along with Razork as well as Wunder. I mean, interesting game. I think, again, we keep looking at these things, keep looking at ways in which the teams are developing and growing from week 1 to week 2, but also ways that the teams need to continue to put work in. I think specifically that bottom lane drafting champion pool for Rekkles and rhuckz is going to be something that will be interesting to watch over the coming weeks.
Yeah, especially as we kind of saw like the Heimerdinger was still left open. We get the Lucian Nami coming through. It did look, honestly, like Rekkles and rhuckz had a good answer though. I mean, the Nautilus and the Varus were doing well at the level 2, level 3. That was kind of the big stalling point, it felt like, on that bot side. So, I mean, at least this game, it did kind of work out, but we'll have to see if teams can exploit it in the future.
I think both of these teams look ahead. They're going to play both Astralis and SK, as well as Heretics, over the course of the next 4 games. Looking at how those games play out, who's able to pick up the wins, it's going to make the advancing to group stage very interesting, because you don't only want to avoid 9 and 10 because you're eliminated, but you also want to be higher up the standings to try and get a better seeding, to try to avoid being picked in that first round.
Yeah, and that's the big problem that you're more than likely going to be seeing for at least some of these squads, is that for Fnatic, yes, the win is crucial. Yes, they can pick up their second one, but I mean, this is a squad that a lot of people are looking at being in the top contenders, right? And it feels like they're still a long way away from that. Same when you look at Excel.
Yeah, definitely the case. Both teams, though, have a few more games to play before the regular season is over. Right now, we're going to head over to Laure with Razork.
Thank you, guys. Lots to say about this game. First, congratulations, Razork, on taking down Excel here. First impressions after this game. Tell me, how do you feel right now?
We are so bad. I mean, these are the first impressions. I think we're struggling a little bit right now with the meta and stuff, but I'm a bit relieved that we actually got a win, because this is like really important to give us more time to improve at the things that we actually are really bad right now.
Yeah, you mentioned the meta. Is there anything else that doesn't work, you would say? Because, again, you brought new team members compared to Fnatic last year. Is this a synergy issue, communication issue? We talked about this last week, but I just want to know how things are progressing right now for you guys.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. I think we are just not good at what's like strong right now on the meta in some positions. So we are like struggling a little bit, like how we want to approach the game, the draft and stuff. So it's been a bit hard.
All right, let's focus on the good moments though, because even though the early game didn't go so well, it took one team fight and a Baron still also to come back into the game. I want to roll the clips, please, because I want to know about the communication that led to the third Drake you took. Tell me what happened here and how you managed to pull through.
Well, we kind of said before, like we just wanted to go on Lucian. That's kind of the only way we can win, because he was like really strong. So we got his flash, so I just saw an opportunity. I died for him, and then, yeah, the rest is just my team kiting back their melees. And we managed to win the fight, yeah.
It was beautifully done. And that led to you guys taking the third Drake, but also this?
I mean, we only win when we steal Nas, actually. Oh, it was 63 HP, and then Wunder took it, yeah. We didn't talk about it, actually. I said, I just go. Yeah,
but you look really proud of your top laner in that moment. Yeah. Well, you said that grabbing this victory, of course, is relieving when you think of Fnatic and the games you have to come, but I want to focus on the standings here for a bit, because even though you grabbed this one, this was an important victory between two teams in the lower part of the standings. But when you look at the 4 games you have left, how confident are you in your ability to lock into top 8?
Well, I mean, in the end, we are Fnatic, right? We always try to like make it hard for us. I don't know, we just like it. We always start like trolling a little bit, and then we suddenly become good when we approach a best of 5s, best of 3s. So hopefully we will actually make it to the next stage, and in the best of 3 we will have a different version of Fnatic.
Yeah.
I mean, there is new patch soon, so it will probably help a lot.
Yeah, I was about to say maybe the new patch will be more fitting for you guys. That's all for us here about Fnatic, but we have match of the week coming up right after the break. Malrong versus Elyoya. Any hints on how this matchup jungle will go?
Well, I actually don't know. I think whoever gets Maokai will win the game. If Maokai is banned, then 50-50.
You had good words about Maokai last week. Once again, Razork, thank you so much for the interview.
Thank you.
Congrats on taking this one. And that's all for us on this side of the stage. We'll be back in just a couple minutes for the match of the week, Koi versus Mad Lions. Stay tuned.